Hello everyone, welcome back to another beginner Roblox game dev tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to code a music playlist that you can pause, play, skip, go back, and you can hide the menu and re-show it. So I'll teach you all how to set up the UI and how to code it. So let's get started. So to get started, make sure you go to View and have the Explorer and Properties tabs open. And then I'll go into Starter GUI and insert a screen GUI. And I'll name that Playlist UI. And then inside of our Playlist UI, I'll insert a frame and I'll name it UI. Now I'll go ahead and set its size and position. And I'll just move it over here. Make it a little wider. Now to make it a little more modern looking, I'll use a UI corner just to round out the corners. So this is where we will display the title and the artist of the song, and then we'll have buttons down here for pausing, playing, skipping, and going back. So for the title and the artist, we'll go ahead and just use text labels. So go to UI and insert 2 text labels. The first one I'll go ahead and name title, and I'll change its size and position. And I will do the next one as artist. And again, I'll change its sizing and position. Make these whatever size you want and put them wherever you want in this UI. I'm going to select both of them and set the background transparency to 1. For the title, I'll go ahead and type in song title, and I will do artist. I'll go ahead and do song artist. These will change whenever the song starts playing. We'll do that through a script, but for now I'm just gonna set them to this. So now I'll select the song title and the artist. You can do control click to select both of them. I'll do text scale. For the title, I will set it to bold. And for artist, I will go ahead and make the color a little lighter so that song title really pops out there. Now for the buttons, I'm going to insert another frame here, and I'll name it buttons. And again, I'll set the size and the position. And I'll move it down here. I'll expand it. And again, I'll set its transparency to 1. Now for our buttons themselves, I'll go ahead and insert 3 text buttons. And one thing we can use is a UI grid layout, and that'll help us just create a pretty consistent and uniform layout. I'll change the cell size to 0.25 and the Y to 1. And the cell padding I'll go ahead and set as 0.05. And then make sure you go to horizontal alignment and select center. Now we'll have centered uniform buttons. So now I'll go ahead and insert UI corner into each of these. Again, just to make it look a little nicer. I'll go ahead and set the background color to a nice orange. You can set it to whatever you want. And then I'll go ahead and delete the text here because we will end up putting an image. So I'll go ahead and name this one previous, because this will be the button to press whenever you want to go back. This will be our toggle. This will be the play and pause button. And this will be our next button. One thing to keep in mind with the UI grid layout, we need to use the layout order property. So for our previous button, we'll set the layout order to 1. we'll set the toggle button to 2, and for next we'll set it to 3. So this just ensures that the previous button stays in the front over here, the toggle stays in the middle, and the next stays on the right. Now next I'm going to insert an image label, and I'll just go ahead and resize it and position it. Background transparency to 1. And then I do have an image ready. I'll go ahead and put that here. I'll put that link in the description if you want to use it. And I'll change this scale type from stretch to fit. And I'll scale it down a little bit. I think it's a little big. And I'll recenter it on our button. Now we want this same image to be our next button as well. So I'll go ahead and click this image label. I'll do Control D to duplicate and drag it into our next button. Then obviously this one is backwards, so I'll go to previous. I will go down to rotation and I'll do 180. And now for our toggle button, I'll go ahead and duplicate one of these image labels and put it in there. And I have another image that I will put in the description as well. And this is just a pause button. I'll set the rotation to 0. And again, it's a little big, so I'll scale it down and recenter it. Now, one last thing before we get coding is let's go ahead and select our playlist UI, and we want to disable reset on spawn. That way, whenever the player dies, this won't change. So if the player's in the middle of a song, the song title and the song artist will stay the same, and our buttons will be the same as well. So if the song is playing, this pause button will still be here, and if the song is paused, then a play button will be here. So now we have our UI menu. We'll be able to pause, play, skip, and go back. Now let's start coding so we can start using these buttons. I'll go ahead and minimize starter GUI. And now I want to go into starter player. And under starter player scripts, I will insert a module script. Now, if you don't know what a module script is, basically it just provides functions for other scripts to call. I would suggest reading this Intro to Module Scripts documentation, which I'll link in the description of the video. But even if you're not familiar with module scripts, I still think you should be able to follow along with the video. And I think it will probably be a good introduction for you anyway. So let's get started. So this is our module, and I'm going to go ahead and rename this playlist module. And so this script is going to be where we store our songs that we want to listen to. And we'll also use a script to go to the next song, pause the song, go back, or resume listening to the song. So the way we want to store our songs is in a table. If you're unfamiliar with tables, I'll link the documentation in the description below. But basically, a table is just a data type that can store multiple values of any type. This will include strings, which we will use it to store the IDs of our songs. So for instance, if I go to Roblox, create, the creator marketplace, if I go to audios and music, I'll go ahead and select a song. I'll go to more info. And this is what I want here. This is the song ID. And so I'll go to my script. And now the way we want to store the song ID is in a table. So I'll create a table and I'll name it playlist. And the way we create a table is with curly braces. And now that we have our table of songs, which is our playlist, I'm going to go ahead and create another table, which is going to be our song itself. So I'll go ahead and put the song ID. And now for the title and the artist to work, I'm going to go ahead and copy the title of the song And I'll put it here. And the artist of the song. Now the way to create another song is just put a comma, hit enter, and put in another table. So we use our curly braces, and then we'll go and find another song. I'll just go ahead and do raining tacos. Again, more info. I grab the ID, I go back, and I paste it here. And again, I'll do comma, I'll do another string, and copy the title and the artist. And I'm going to go ahead and do this a couple more times. And there we go, I have 4 songs in my playlist now. So now we need a way to keep track of where we are in our playlist. And I'll go ahead and create a variable called current track, and I'll set it to 1. Now I'll go ahead and create the music instance. So under our playlist module, I will insert a sound instance, and I'll name it music. And so now we will create a function that sets up the music. So to create a function in this module, all you need to do is type function, type in module, and then do dot the name of your function. So I'll do dot setup. And now we have a function that can be called outside of the script. Now, one thing I did forget is that we want to reference the sound instance that we created. So I'll go ahead and name the variable music output. And we just need to point this to script.music. And again, this is this music instance that we created over here. This is going to be where we play our sound. So before we get started our setup function, I'm going to create a helper function. And a helper function is just something that this function will call. And it's not going to be attached to our module, so we don't need to say module. I'll just say function set up song, and I'll pass in song data. So this song data is going to be a table. So we'll do local song ID is song data, the first index. So this will be the sound ID. And then for our title, we'll do local title song data 2. And for artist, song data 3. So to set up our song, we'll reference this music output variable. Now we can't just set this equal to sound ID because unfortunately, whenever we take this ID and we put this sound ID here, if we do that with a script, it won't generate this URL. So we need to do this ourselves. We'll do sound ID and we'll put in that URL and we'll concatenate it with our song ID. And now we want to create another helper function. Again, it's not going to be part of the module, so we don't need to say module. But here we'll say function update UI. And we'll pass in title and artist. And so this function will update our playlist UI that we've made over here. So to get this UI, I'm going to go ahead and create a variable for our local player. So local player is equal to game.players.localPlayer. And now to reference our playlist UI, we'll do local player wait for child player GUI wait for child playlist UI. And the reason we need to do this is because whenever the player is loaded in, the player GUI is not loaded in at the same time. So we need to wait for that to be loaded in to reference it. So now we have this playlist UI referenced. We can update it by doing playlist UI. Remember, it's in the UI frame. And for our title, we'll just do title.text equals title. And again, for our artist, we'll do artist.text equals artist. One more thing we can do is we can pass in is playing, and if is playing, then we want this button to be a pause sign, and if it's not playing, then we'll put it as a play sign. That way the user will know if they're going to be pausing or playing the song. So let's go back on our script, and I'll just add another variable. I'll do pause icon, and I'll pass in this string. This is the pause image that we have here. And for our play icon, I'll go ahead and paste in this image, and I will put that in the description as well. So if is playing is true, then we'll do playlist UI dot UI dot buttons dot toggle dot image label dot image, and we'll set this equal to the pause icon. And if is playing is false, then the same thing, we'll set that equal to the play icon. So this is all you need to update the UI. And now if we go back to our setup song function, we've just passed in our song ID. Now we can update the UI. We'll pass in the title, the artist, and for is playing, we'll pass in true. And now we want to actually play it. So we'll do music output play. So now for our setup function, this is the only function in this module that's exposed to outside scripts. And I'll show you what that means in a second. But all we need to do for our setup function is call this setup song. And now it wants to receive song data, which is going to be a table in this playlist table. And so for that, all we need to do is playlist, and our index will be our current track. So our current track is 1, and our first index in our playlist is going to be Happy Song by Roblox, or uploaded by Roblox actually. And now to actually get this up and running, I'm going to insert a local script under the module. And so to use a module script, we actually need to require it, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll go ahead and do local playlist module, and I'll do require script.parent. And now we can do playlist module, and it comes with function setup because this is the function that we exposed by doing module.setup. So we can do setup. So now when I test play, it'll go ahead and call the setup function in our module script, and it should start playing a song. So it looks like it works. Unfortunately, these buttons don't work. It has no functionality, but we'll get to that. So now we're gonna code the next button. So for that, we're going to do function module because we want this function to be exposed to other scripts. And now obviously for our next function, we're gonna increase our current track index. So we'll do current track plus equals 1. this will increase it by 1. And now we do want to check that this current track number is within the indexes of this table. So think about if we were on playlist song number 4, so index 4, and we increased it to 5, that song doesn't exist, so we would want to set it back to 1. So we'll do if current track is greater than the number of songs in playlist, then we will do current track equals 1. So again, this will return the number of instances inside this table. So that will be 4. And so if our current track is greater than 4, we'll just set it back to 1. Next, we're going to go ahead and pause our music output. So we can do a music output pause. And now we want to get our song data. And all that's going to be is the playlist table. And we'll pass in our current index, which we just updated our current track number. And now all we need to do is set up our song. So we'll do setup song. We already created this function. We'll pass in our song data. Now we can go ahead and code our previous button. So we'll do function module.previous. And we'll do the same thing. So we'll do current track, but instead of increasing it, we'll decrease it by 1. So we'll do minus equals 1. And instead of checking if the current track is greater than the number of songs in the playlist, we'll check if it's less than 1. Because if we're on 1 and we decrease it, now it's 0. So we just want to set it to the number of songs in our playlist, which would just be 4. And now we would do the same thing as the next function. We would just pause our music output. And then we would get our song data and pass it into setup song. So now we want to code the play and pause functionality. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a function. We want to expose it, so we'll do function module and we'll do toggle, because this is going to toggle between play and pause. So we can actually check and see if our sound instance is playing. The way we want to do that is if music output is playing, so that means that the song is currently playing, then we can pause it. So we can do music output pause. And then obviously we want to update this button image. So like we did an update UI, we'll just do playlist UI, buttons, toggle, image label, and we'll set it to the play icon. Else, so this means that music is not playing. Then we want to do music output resume. You might be tempted to do music output play, but that will start it over from the beginning. So we'll just use resume. And instead of setting the play icon, we'll show a pause icon, because now the music is playing. We want the user to see a pause icon if they want to pause it now. So now let's hook up the UI buttons to our functions in our module. So back in our local script, we also want to reference this playlist UI. So we'll copy these 2 lines, local player and playlist UI, and I'll go ahead and paste them before we require the playlist module. And now after the setup function, let's go ahead and hook up these buttons to the playlist module functions. So we're going to do playlist UI, and now remember it's in the UI frame, and then buttons, And so for the next button, we'll do .next. And now the event we want to connect to is mouse button 1 down. We'll connect to that event and we'll create a function. And all we need to do is playlist module .next. And now we do the same thing for previous. And the same thing for toggle. So now we have the next button, the previous button, and the toggle button all hooked up. So let's try it out. So we spawn in, it's playing. If we want to pause it, it pauses it. We can resume it. We can skip it. We can go back. We can pause it again, play it, and all the buttons are working. Now, one more thing we want to do, if we want the music to continue playing even after one song is ended, if you want it to go on to the next one without having to click next, we do need to do one last thing. So at the end of our script, so after all of these buttons have been hooked up to our playlist module, we want to do while true do. And now we want to do script.parent.music, and we want to wait for the ended event. So this event will fire when the sound is completely played. So this means that one song is ended. So we'll wait for this. So when that's done, we'll just call playlist module.next. So that will just continue the songs after one song is ended without having to click the next button. And now the finishing touch. If you want a button to open and close this UI down here, we can go to our playlist UI. We can insert a text button. I'll bring it down here. And again, I'll go ahead and do UI corner. I'll make this button a nice orange. And I'll take away the text, and then I'll just paste in this image I have here of a music note. So to toggle the visibility, it's pretty simple. We just want to insert a local script into this text button. And all we need to do is script.parent.mousebutton1 down. We'll connect to this, and then we'll just create a function. We'll do if script.parent.parent.ui.visible, then, so that means if this UI frame is visible, then we want to hide it. So all we need to do is set that to false, and else, meaning if it is visible, or if it's not visible, then we'll set it to true. So now let's test everything out. We spawn in, our song is playing, we can pause it, we can resume it, skip it, go back, and we can hide the menu and reshow it. So that's how you script a playlist UI and hook up all the buttons. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any other suggestions of what you want me to script, also let me know in the comments and I will see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. I definitely appreciate it. See you next time.